My sister and I are two cat spirits. After straying into the imperial palace, she became the emperor's doted upon royal consort. I, on the other hand, was tucked into the mighty general's embrace and carried out of the palace. For 3 years, I was the palm, held darling, the treasure of his heart. The general brought back a woman from the border, and, for the first time, the emperor grew angry with my sister. Late at night, my sister leaped onto my roof. Mimi, I've absorbed enough dragon aura. Shall we run? I swiftly bundled up the gold, silver, and jewels, slung them over my back, and nodded. If you go, I go. In an instant, the royal consort passed away, and the general's estate was newly bereaved. Rumors spread that the emperor's wrath brought death to millions. The general, seeking his beloved wife, led heavy troops to besiege the imperial city. The realm was on the brink of collapse. My sister and I are two cat spirits who relied on each other in the mountains. To cultivate our powers, we agreed to descend and seek fortune. Because I greedily went after the koi in the imperial garden, I slipped and fell into the water. In panic, my sister had no choice but to transform into human form to save me. Who would have thought that Emperor Jinsong happened to stroll through the imperial garden that day? With just one glance, he conferred upon my sister the title of royal consort. My cultivation was weak, drenched and overwhelmed by the emperor's draconic aura. I dare not rise. General Jackson Leong, passing by, tucked me into his embrace, carried me out of the estate, and I became the general's wife of unknown origins. At midnight, I shed my garments, treading with feline grace as I leaped lightly onto the roof. Skirting along the walls of the general's estate, I dashed swiftly toward the agreed southwestern corner of the palace wall. Along the way, I encountered a lost butterfly and chased after it playfully for a while. By the time I arrived, my sister Serena Lee was already perched elegantly on the wall, lazily grooming between her claws. Why are you so late? I sighed. Don't ask. Jackson Leong is returning to the capital. And also, halfway through my words, I glanced up at my sister's face, hesitated, but spoke out anyway. The messenger reported that General Jackson Leong brought back a woman from the northern border. I saw the portrait. It's identical to the one you showed me last time. That portrait hangs in a secret chamber of the imperial study, heavily guarded. I heard that when Emperor Jinsong was a hostage in the northern border, he suffered much abuse, and that woman once saved his life. Sister paused her raised paw, then pressed her soft pads against the wall and scratched irritably twice. When can we enter the capital? I flicked my tail. At least 3 days. At the earliest. Sister frowned and looked up at me. I won't fight another woman for a man. Our leopard cat clan has no precedent for this. I twitched the tips of my ears, curious. So, what do you intend to do? I don't want to stay here anymore. 3 years down the mountain, and we've been cooped up in this tiny place. True, it completely goes against our leopard cat clan's nature of freedom. It was fine when Emperor Jinsong and General Jackson Leong treated us well, but now that there's someone else, they probably won't care much about us anymore. I nodded. Wherever you go, I'll follow. I'll always listen to you. Sister lifted her paw and patted my cat head. All right, pack your things over these 3 days. We'll leave after meeting that woman. After saying this, her paw paused atop my head, as if she'd thought of something. Mimi, you won't get too caught up playing and forget this time, will you? My face flushed immediately. I wagged my tail rapidly, desperately trying to explain myself. Absolutely not. Believe me. Sister nodded reluctantly. Fine then. You must not forget. With that, Sister got up, leaped off the palace wall, and ran toward the royal consort's palace. As for me, I retraced my path directly along the rooftops, back in my bedchamber, clutching the key to General Jackson Liang's small treasury at the general's estate. I entered the storeroom. This one's good. That one's nice too. This is expensive yet light, perfect to take along. I spent 3 consecutive nights selecting items, while still handling estate affairs during the day. TSK, TSK. It really is time to run away. If I stay like this any longer, forget being a cat that needs 10 hours of sleep a day. Even an energetic monkey wouldn't be able to handle it. Fortunately, General Jackson Leong is returning today. I led the household staff to wait at the entrance. It had been over half a year since I last saw Jackson Leong, and I must admit, I missed him a little. I raised my voice cheerfully to call out his name, Jackson, but the next moment, I changed my mind. Jackson Leong dismounted, glanced at me briefly, then turned to lift the carriage curtain. Miss Isla, we've arrived. Al palais. Slender hand emerged from the carriage, followed by a delicate, willow-like figure, and finally a strikingly beautiful face. Thank you, General Leong. As she turned and saw my fierce expression, she gasped and stumbled backward into Jackson Liang's arms. Jackson steadied her and asked with concern, "Are you hurt?" Isla, and shook her head, glanced at me timidly, then lowered her eyes. It's just that maid over there looks rather fierce. She startled me. Jackson Leong looked over and frowned slightly at me. My anger flared instantly. Jackson Leong, let go of her this instant. Who is she calling a maid? Usually General Jackson Leong indulges my every whim. He always says I'm the apple of his eye, a treasure heaven sent him. In the 3 years since I descended the mountain, I've rampaged through the general's estate, and no one has ever dared to disrespect me. This was the first time someone had the audacity to call me a maid right in front of General Jackson Leong. I thought General Jackson Leong would stand up for me, but he just whispered impatiently, "Mimi, stop making a scene." Making a scene? Me? The entire estate watched from the entrance as the woman who had been their mistress for 3 years was humiliated by someone not even officially welcomed yet. And General Jackson Leong took her side. "Miss Isla, let me help you back to rest first." General Jackson Leong considerately offered his hand. Isla and blushed and accepted, casting a smug glance my way as she passed. I was absolutely livid. No calico cat could ever tolerate being openly challenged like this. I abruptly thrust my arm between the two of them, glaring at General Jackson Leong with burning eyes. "Jackson Leong, answer me. Am I still the mistress of this estate?" Pointing at Isla, I declared word by word. I said, "I forbid this woman from entering." General Jackson Leong looked at me with complex emotions, finally uttering after a long pause, "Mimi, I have yet to take a wife." My heart sank as if a fishbone had lodged in my throat, stuck there, neither rising nor falling, an unbearable discomfort. My eyes instantly reddened. "You say you never married me? Then what was that life? Risking rescue, that marriage proposal and vows in the dilapidated temple years ago?" A flicker of pain crossed General Jackson Liang's eyes. He released Isla and's hand and stepped forward. I thought he meant to embrace me, but he leaned close to my ear and dropped a thunderous whisper. "A mere kitten, dreaming of becoming the general's lady?" I trembled from head to toe, as if plunged into an icy abyss. Watching his retreating figure supporting Isla, I was too enraged to speak. I stomped back to my room in a huff, figuring General Jackson Leong, with a beauty in his arms, wouldn't spare a thought for an old flame like me. So I shifted form, leaped onto the wall, and slipped into the palace grounds. After searching for ages without a trace of sister, I instead spotted a maid hurrying past the door of the Imperial study. Could it be in the Imperial study? I crept silently beneath the study's window, climbed a tree to peer inside, and sure enough, there she was. Sister stood by the wall behind the desk, the hidden chamber door wide open. She held that portrait, tears streaming down her face like rain. Who is she? Emperor Jin's song stood frozen, clenching his fists. What good would tearing it do? She has already returned to the capital. The portrait means nothing now. Sister's face paled, but she stubbornly pressed on. "Just answer me this. In all these 3 years of favor, was there ever a moment you truly cared for me?" Emperor Jin's song's gaze swept over her face before he coldly replied, "Never. That too, timing scoundrel. He used to dote on my sister endlessly when she admired the vibrant silks of the western regions. Emperor Jin's song spent fortunes to drape entire walls with them, though my sister later clawed them to shreds. Emperor Jin's song merely praised her. Susu's scratches are exquisite. I find them even more beautiful than before." Even I felt secondhand embarrassment hearing those words. When my sister fancied soft furs, Emperor Jin's song opened his private treasury for her to pick freely. He even had pelts from his post, coronation hunts sewn into rugs. The lustrous gray fur could carpet the entire chamber of the royal consort. But now, before even laying eyes on that woman Islaen, his attitude toward my sister has shifted. Scum, my sister was escorted back to her chambers by palace attendants, while Emperor Jin's song stood, rooted in place, his eyes heavy with anguish. TCH, belated affection is fit only for dogs to see. No, wait, even dogs would scorn it. Not just my sister. Even I'm fuming with rage. I'm carrying twice the anger, mine and hers combined. I climbed down from the tree and returned to the Liang residence, only to find that General Jackson Liang hadn't even shown up. I could only channel my anger into motivation, frantically stuffing gold and jewels into my bundle. Selling all these would be enough to buy a lifetime supply of dried fish for our mountain leopard cats. Mid-thought, I suddenly remembered. The mountain was gone, and our leopard cat lineage was now reduced to just us sisters. Midnight arrived once more. The master of the house had returned. I'd lost my title as mistress, and everyone was busy currying favor with the newly arrived missin. Humph. After 3 years together, not even a soul came to ask if I'd eaten. A faint rustling sound came from the roof, followed by someone lifting a tile. Sniffling with hurt, I whispered softly, "Sister." She lifted 2 more tiles, shifted back to her true form, and leaped down. "Mimi, I've absorbed enough dragon energy and left a decoy behind. Will you come with me now, or stay a while longer?" Having often heard me praise General Jackson Liang in the past, Sister took one look at my gloomy expression and assumed I was reluctant to leave. I shook my head vigorously. "No, let's leave together." She frowned and glanced around. "Has General Jackson Liang returned and not stayed with you? Don't even mention it. It makes me even angrier. That woman from Emperor Jin's song's painting is now in the general's estate, and General Jackson Liang dotes on her every whim, even saying a mere calico cat like me isn't fit to be the lady of the estate. Back when he provided for me, I sacrificed half my cultivation to save him. He vowed in that broken temple to offer his life as my bride price. That's why I agreed to marry him as his wife. Sister, he's gone back on his word." I clutched my sister's skirt, weeping pitifully. A sharp slap on the table startled me. Looking closely, I saw my sister was so furious her tail had emerged. Humans truly are heartless beasts. Emperor Jin's song is no exception, and neither is General Jackson Liang. She patted my head, her tone exasperated, already slow, witted and sluggish in cultivation, yet you let yourself be tricked out of half your power. Now you can't even shape-shift a decent illusion, can you? I nodded meekly. MHM. Sister, though angry, still extended her hand to cast a spell by the bedside. In an instant, a girl with a round face and cat-like eyes, identical to me, was sitting at the edge of the bed. I pointed at the doppelganger's belly in astonishment and asked, "Why does she look so full?" Then, Sister gave me a disapproving tap on the head. "What do you mean, full?" I was confused. "Huh?" A shrewd glint flashed in Sister's eyes. "Since he refuses to acknowledge your status, I'll help you send him a grand gift." Though I didn't quite understand. I knew Sister was always right. "I'll do as you say." After Sister left, I was starving and pushed the door open to leave the room. In the past, everyone would address me as Madam this and Madam that, but now the hallway was deserted and bleak. Ugh, such snobs. I walked to the kitchen door, hoping to grab some snacks to fill my stomach. But as I glanced up, I saw Isla and with her attendants, chatting and laughing with the head chef. With a glance, I spotted a plate of my favorite fried yellow croakers right on the cutting board. Because I love them, General Jackson Liang had ordered the kitchen to keep a plate ready for me at all times. Once, seeing me enjoy them so much, he even teased jealously. "Little greedy cat only has eyes for the fish, won't even glance at me." I retorted with a fish tail in my mouth. "Well, you're not as delicious as these croakers." His eyes darkened as he lifted me onto the table and bit my lip, growling fiercely. He said, "Not delicious, little kitten, taste more carefully." Seeing the croakers, I naturally assumed they were left for me and reached out to take them. Isla and Smaid tried to snatch them, but how could she outpace a cat? In the end, the plate ended up in my paws. I tilted my chin up, sniffing a hit. "Dare to compete with me? You're unworthy." Stealing fish from a cat. How outrageous. Isla Anne's expression darkened, but she feigned politeness. "Sister likes it. I should let you have it. But my home is in the northern border, and my mother often makes small yellow croakers there. It's been a long time since I returned home. I just wanted to taste a bit of that familiar flavor." Frowning, I listened to her ramble on and on until I grew annoyed. What does that have to do with me? Yet the maid and the chef nearby were looking at her with sympathy. Seriously, are they all out of their minds? I picked up the plate of small yellow croakers and headed out, but just as I took a step, Isla grabbed my sleeve. "If you want to eat it, just have him make another." Before I could finish, Isla shoved me hard, sending the small yellow croakers flying everywhere, and I crashed into the doorframe. I was completely dazed from the fall. Then, I saw Isla stagger backward as if pushed by an invisible force, nearly tumbling into the fire pit. I had just steadied myself when a figure suddenly darted out from behind me, brushing past and bumping into me again. My face scraped against the doorframe, drawing blood instantly. It hurt so much, but instead of apologizing, the man swiftly gathered Isla into his arms. "Missin, are you all right?" General Jackson Leong helped Isla up gently, his voice soft with concern. What could possibly be wrong with her? She pushed me first, yet Isla clung to him as if terrified, nestling into his embrace. "I'm fine, General Leong. Please check on Miss Mimi," though urging him to tend to another. Her eyes flickered with fear when they met mine. General Jackson Leong looked up at me, anger simmering unmistakably in his gaze. "Lee Mimi, have you caused trouble again? What the hell? None of this is my damn fault." But seeing General Liang's furious expression, my heart ached with bitterness and frustration, trapping the stream of curses on my lips, leaving me speechless. Isla tugged timidly at General Liang's sleeve and whispered, "Back home, Mother always made me small yellow croakers. Seeing them now made my heart ache. That's why I upset Miss Mimi." "Don't blame Miss Mimi. It was my lack of balance." Her actions tore me stem from her care for the general. The more she spoke, the darker General Jackson Liang's expression grew. "Apologize." My voice trembled with anger. "You want me to apologize to her? It's just a plate of small yellow croakers." I sharply called out to him, "Jackson Leong." Tears glistened in my eyes as I stared at him with reddened rims. "Just a plate of small yellow croakers?" A sour ache spread thread by thread through my veins until it consumed my entire body. General Jackson Leong looked at me coldly, a flicker of heartache in his eyes before his tone hardened with disappointment. "Lee Mimi, can't you stop making a scene?" Gazing at the fallen yellow croakers, my heart felt as if a gaping hole had been torn through it. It was like that year I returned to the mountain only to find my home gone. That night, I silently climbed onto the wall and nuzzled against Sister's chin. "Sister, let's leave this place." Early the next morning, Emperor Jin's Song personally rode on horseback, making a grand spectacle as he escorted Isla into the palace. General Jackson Leong stood at the mansion gate for a long while, then turned and asked, "Where is my wife?" The servant thought for a moment and replied, "The mistress has been shut in her room since yesterday and hasn't come out." Frowning slightly, he asked, "Has she not eaten either?" The servant nodded. Jackson Leong fell silent for a long time. Fine, with her temperament, a couple of hungry meals might teach her a lesson. He stepped through the gate and walked a few paces further. "Go to the kitchen and prepare some freshly fried yellow croakers. I'll deliver them myself." The servant acknowledged, then hesitantly asked, "Then, should we still call her mistress from now on?" "No." A decoy infused with a drop of my essence blood, identical to me in appearance and temperament, enchanted to be remotely controlled. At that moment, it was sitting blankly on the bed, clutching its stomach. General Jackson Leong entered carrying fried yellow croakers and a bowl of soup. The sister outside the capital activated her magic, making the puppet body move and sneer. General Leong, not accompanying your lady in anymore? Jackson Leong placed the items on the table. Your favorite fried yellow croakers. Take them to appease your lady in. I dare not eat them. Jackson Liang's jaw tightened, anger flashing in his eyes. Mimi, how much longer will you keep this up? Haven't I given you enough these past few years? Keep this up? Who's the one causing trouble? The puppet rose and stepped toward Jackson Leong, eyes blazing red. Jackson Leong, that year when you were poisoned and shot with arrows while handling the Emperor's case, I used half my cultivation to save you in that dilapidated temple. You swore to the city god then, vowing to marry me with your life and never betray me. Do you still remember? That year, the broken temple was drafty, with only a half-burnt candle and him, drenched in blood. Leong Jackson took my hand and said with a smile, with my life as the betrothal gift, and my blood as the wedding gown, I take Mimi, the cat spirit, as my wife, never to part for all eternity. If I ever break this vow, may I be struck by lightning and die with my heart and liver torn out. Later, he brought me back to the capital, and everyone knew the general's wife was of mysterious origins, cherished by the general like the apple of his eye. A maid in the mansion asked me when General Leong and I would hold our wedding banquet. Not knowing myself, I went to ask him, but he made excuses, saying cat spirits are rare, and a grand celebration would put me in too much danger. At the time, I was touched that Leong Jackson cared for me so deeply. Only now do I understand. What danger? What protection? It was simply that a mere cat spirit like me wasn't worthy to be the wife of the great general. Seeing my silence, he softly coaxed me, be good, and from now on, I'll have them fry little yellow croakers for you every day. All right, as if eating one little fried fish could make me forget everything in an instant. The doppelganger shoved his hand away, glaring furiously. Leong Jackson, Mimi, am not some pet you can kick away when disgusted and hug when pleased. General Leong lost his patience, irritation written across his brow. Then, what do you want? What becomes of me hereafter is no concern of General Leong. The doppelganger turned to leave but was abruptly yanked back by the arm by an impatient Leong Jackson. I had hoped to avoid force, but you leave me no choice with your defiance. He pinned the doppelganger against the table, lifted a nearby bowl of soup, and poured every last drop into her mouth. The petite figure struggled desperately. What did you force on me? General Liang's expression was icy. Merely a little something to nullify your magic. His large hand gripped her rounded face, his voice cold as frost. Mimi, willing or not, you will remain by my side for this lifetime. Everything but a formal title. I can give you all else. The doppelganger gritted her teeth and cursed. Leong Jackson, you've lost your mind. General Jackson Leong pinned me down, gripping my chin, about to kiss me when he suddenly froze. Your face. A clamor of footsteps echoed outside the door, followed by Imperial guards rushing in, interrupting the conversation. General Jackson Leong released me, his expression displeased. What is it? The leading officer urgently replied. The royal consort and lady and in the palace have both been poisoned. They need the spirit core from a leopard cat spirit's abdomen as the medicinal catalyst. I've heard there is a certain Lady Li at the general's estate. His Majesty has ordered me to bring her to the palace. General Jackson Leong abruptly looked up. Through my illusion's eyes, I clearly saw him pause in silence, then nod. I will accompany you to the palace. General Jackson Leong, you would help them kill me? Even knowing he had long since changed, I could hardly catch my breath at this moment. Once a spirit's core is extracted, death is certain. He frowned. It's not about killing you. It's simply that your spirit core is needed to save someone. Extract the core to save someone, just like that. General Jackson Leong stared at me intently, then spoke coldly after a long pause. You can survive. I've tried many times. As the soldiers came to seize her, the decoy wept and begged General Jackson Leong to save her. General Jackson Leong, I'll die. Her fingertips turned white, clutching his robe, nearly tearing it apart. I'm carrying your child. I'm carrying your child. But he bent down, whispered my name, Mimi, and just as I thought he would save me, he said, how could a human and a cat spirit have a child? Don't lie, Mimi.